Dominic Garter sat in the back of the office in his dad's hunting shop. He started and stared at the figure that was tied to a metal pipe. The figure stared back at him with hungry eyes. Dominic then turned his attention to all the guns next to him: pistols, revolvers, shotguns, and hunting rifles. Dominic had picked up several guns and aimed at the creature's head, but he couldn't bring himself to pull the trigger. "I'm sorry, Dad," he'd say every time. He wondered if there were any kids who had been forced to kill their parents. Throughout his entire life, Dominic was his dad. He had spent so much time hunting, fishing, playing sports, watching their favorite shows. No one he'd be ever to do anything with him again, except being forced to watch as he struggled in his restraints. Dominic stood up and made his way to the roof of the shop. Whenever he needed a break from watching his dad, he'd go up on the roof and watch the world plunge deeper into chaos. At the beginning, the roads were filled with terrified children being devoured by adults, and now they were barren. He thought back to the beginning when he was in school. The sky lit up when the adults went mad. When he made his way over there, he knew his dad would be. He was alone in his office. Once Dominic had arrived, fended off his dad, he locked up the shop and to make it his temporary shelter. Dominic then looked over the parapet to the streets below. Only a few adults wandered, but none of them saw Dominic. He felt like the loneliest person in the world. He had no family or friends. All he had was himself. That's all he was, a speck on Earth. 1 week later, "Luna, Luan, Lynn, please come with me," Joey called out into the darkened gymnasium. Several of the kids shifted in their sleeps as the loud sister shifted her heads from their pillows. Between them were two younger siblings. With Lily in her crib beside the family, the twins rested on each other of Luna. They huddled closer as she moved. Luna watched through the blurry eyes as the small flame of candle drew nearer where they were lying down at. Reveal a hard face, lengthy blonde hair. "Come on, you three. Duke wants to talk to you." Joey made no effort to keep quiet, which pissed everyone off. Why did he have to shout and wake everyone up instead of just waking up the loud sisters quietly? Nudged them up? No one was going to confront him, though. Joey was a strong kid and could possibly beat everybody up in the room. There was a time he got into a fight with a kid almost 3 times his size. The bigger kid punched him in the face, breaking his nose. However, Joey just shook off the hit and even went with a broken nose, ended up headbutting the kid, which knocked him out cold. He twisted his nose back into place and went on about his day. There was also a time at Duke's house where he dared Joey to ride his bike off the roof and try to land on the trampoline. Joey, not being the one to refuse the dare, just did that. Only he ended up missing the trampoline and just completely injuring his body. However, Joey just got up and walked over. He didn't even tell his dad. It wasn't until the next day at school that the teachers noticed something was wrong with him and he had to go to the nurse. He then realized that several broken bones and ended up calling his dad. He wasn't happy about having to leave work, so when his dad arrived at the school, Joey ended up getting into a fist fight. He had managed to beat up his dad, though, even with all of his broken bones. The police had to be called, and Joey ended up staying with his grandparents from then on. Lynn was the first to put on her shoes and stand up. She had been waking up every morning all week to get a head start on working out in the exercise room, so this was just like any other day for her. She was still annoyed, though. Luan lifted her body up in a sitting position and rubbed her eyes. She too was tired and couldn't even tell a joke. Luna put her head back on her pillow and placed a hand across her eyes and inhaled. What could possibly Duke want this early? "Come on, Luna," Joey demanded. Luna ignored him. She wanted nothing more to do than to close her eyes and drifted back into a deep sleep, surrounded by the warm, loving embrace of Lana and Lola. Joey nudged her again with his axe handle. "Wake up, little Miss Punk Rock." "Watch it," she finally said, lifting her head back up, swatting the handle away from the twins. Now all the Louds were then awake. Luna looked to her sides. She couldn't spot Lisa, to which she meant she was still in the science room, still studying like an adult. Since the day after they arrived, she had been to spent at least 95% of her time in that, and the other 5% was spent eating and using the bathroom. "Where are you taking them?" Lincoln asked. "I'm taking them to the auditorium," Joey answered. "Duke just has a little job for them to do. No biggie." Lincoln didn't believe that it wasn't no big deal. It must have been important apparently since it couldn't wait till later. Can we come with? The twins asked. No, Joey answered. This means only requires your older sisters. Luna and Luan both put their shoes on and stood up. Joey began to lead them away when Lana and Lola both wrapped their arms around Luna's legs. Please don't take our sisters, they cried. Joey rolled his eyes. Whoa, it's okay, Luna reassured them. We'll be gone just for a little while, wild dudes. You promise? They all said through their tear-filled eyes. I promise. Joey knew that she was wrong. What Duke had planned for the sisters could take them at least a few hours. He decided not to say anything, though. Lincoln walked up gingerly and pulled the girl twins away from their sister. The twins wrapped their arms around Lincoln. Come on, let's go back to bed, he told them, and led them back to the mat. Lucy was holding their dog Charles, joined in the embrace as soon as they sat down. They watched as Joey led the sisters out of the gym. The room was soon consumed by darkness when the door shut. Lincoln could no longer see the orange glow of the candle shine through the walls and through the small windows of the gym door. The room was dead quiet. And then a tired, bitter noise spoke up, just loud enough for the whole gym to hear. What a frickin' asshole! Some of the younger kids gasped, while a lot of the older kids snickered. Some teased, reprehended his voice. Lincoln and his siblings paid no attention to the quarreling voices. They were too concerned wondering what Duke had in store for their older siblings. Once they entered the dimly lit auditorium, the Loud sisters saw three new teens standing on the stage next, talking to Duke, with Stan and Jeremy standing right next to them, along with a 13-year-old named Cooper. He was a classmate of Lynn's, and he had been captain of the middle school's basketball team before the blast. Luna recognized the three teens from her grade. Jay, Eric, and Franklin were their names. Where did they come from? Oh good, you're here, Duke said as they approached the stage. Yeah, we are, Lynn barked. Now what do you want? Luna stuck out an arm in front of Lynn. Sorry, what she means is, it's really early in the morning and we'd like to know what is so important. Duke spoke in. I am sure you've noticed we have visitors. He gestured to the teens standing next to them. They tell me they have come from middle school searching for help and supplies. What does that have to do with us? Lynn asked, annoyed. I'm going to need your girls to help them deliver some things to the middle school. Do we look like mail carriers to you? Luna hushed Lynn. I'm sorry, the older sister began, but why do you need us to deliver some things to the middle school? Because I think it's time you freeze started carrying your own weight. The Loud sisters slightly winced at the phrase. If you're older than 12, then you had to help around the school, but some of their younger sisters were special. They possessed some very useful skills. Luna wanted to reflect on the Loud siblings they had done the last week. Lisa was working hard on studying like the adult in this science room. She had created some concoctions that would hope to be able to cure the adults, but they didn't. Nevertheless, they could still be useful to treat ailments. Lola had been spending time with the home economics room, helping stitch up the pillows and blankets, as well as helping cook meals for the kids in the cafeteria. Lana had been busy with the school's plumbing system, keeping the water flowing smoothly. She had also been helping repair the bus. Lucy had been spending a lot of time in the vents, so there wasn't so much she could be doing to help, but she was only 8. She didn't really have to do anything. Lincoln had been striking up some friendships with a lot of kids at the school. Everyone liked Lincoln. Meanwhile, Lily was just a baby, so there wasn't anything that she could do. Luna had spent most of her playtime playing some instruments and singing to the younger kids. It helped take their minds off of the screwed-up world outside, but it didn't really help in the long run. Luan had been telling jokes and sometimes performing magic tricks for the younger kids. She had been making a lot of people laugh, while Lynn, on the other hand, had spent most of her time in the school's workout room. A lot of kids were intimidated by her grueling workout, so they stayed away from her when she lifted the weights or went to work on punching a bag. She supposed Duke was right. It wasn't fair for everyone else to let Luna just go and sit around and play instruments. Okay, fine, Luna began. But why do you have to wake us up so early? Well, for starters, these fellas had just arrived and it's urgent they need medical supplies. I'm sure Lisa's potions or whatever would suffice. So, also, you have to be able to get up early to jump into action, Duke told him. So get ready and say goodbye to your sisters, because you've got quite a way to go. Then he acknowledged the three familiar kids standing next to him. Don't worry, Stan, Jeremy, and Cooper will go with you. The Loud sisters sighed and they walked out of the room with Stan, Jeremy, and Cooper. The kids from middle school had followed them. Once they all left the auditorium, it was just Duke and Joey alone on the stage. Joey then turned to Duke. Why are you making them doing this? He asked. Lisa is already really busy as it is, working on finding about this disease. Does she really need to have the thought of her sisters being out on an expedition to the middle school to distract her? Now, Duke, he turned to Joey. Just think about it, dude. Lisa's working as hard as she could to find something about this disease. She has the fact that two of her older sisters and friends she had before the blast are dead to keep her working strenuously. Joey nodded. Okay. There was nothing that she could have done to prevent this from dying. However, if any of the siblings die after that fact, that will motivate her even further to find the disease. She will end up working harder than ever, which might end up us getting a cure soon rather than later. So you're sending up there in hopes that they'll die? I don't want them to die, Duke answered. But if they do, it might just work out in favor. Joey sneered. You're so bad. I know, Duke acknowledged. And awesome. You got that right. And sexy. Duke frowned. It's never gonna happen, Joey. Aw, fiddlesticks, Joey pouted. No, you can't go! Lola shouted at her older sisters and began to cry. Tears began to fill in Lana's eyes as well. We'll just be gone for a little while, Luna assured them. But it did ease their sobs. Even Lily was crying, although she was a baby and hadn't been awoken by her sister's cries. The gym was now dimly lit by the sun beginning to rise. Although the Loud family still couldn't see anyone else in the room, they felt the eyes of several kids glaring at them. Meanwhile, Stan stood beside the older Loud sisters, and while the teen stood in the doorway, waiting for them to finish saying goodbye. He had already been viewing his scavenging chips for the last week, so his younger sisters weren't really worried about him going out there when he told her about the expedition he was about to embark on. Why is Duke making you do this? Lincoln asked, trying his best to keep his composure. Why couldn't he just do it himself? Luna told him what Duke had told him a few minutes ago. Yeah, and besides, he's got to keep an eye on this place, Stan said. The Loud family all turned to Stan and shot him some harsh looks. Stan took that hint, but decided he should stay out of the discussion. But it could be dangerous, Lucy said. Don't worry, Luna told him. Stan and the rest will be out there before, and they've even battled some grown-ups. They're not too hard to handle, and those kids from middle school, they said they got out here without any trouble at all. The younger Louds just continued to stare at their worried expressions. They hadn't gotten over the attack from a week ago, and that one adult that lobbed a brick at Mr. Grouse's car. Some of the adults were smarter than others, but they knew how to use blunt force objects and weapons. Those were the ones you have to watch out for. Look, we do have to get out there sooner or later, Lynn began, so why not get out of the way early? The younger Loud siblings looked at her and Luan, who hadn't said anything yet. Luan, are you okay with this? Lincoln asked. No, I'm not, she told him. But like Duke said, I'm gonna have to carry my own weight. Luckily, I don't weigh that much. A smile grew on her worried face. This isn't funny, Luan. Lola began to cry. No, it isn't funny. But you know what's funny? The Loud stared at her. I smelled it in this gym. She laughed. I actually can't wait to get out there and get some fresh air. The younger Louds weren't laughing. There were sounds of kids shifting on their mats as they were waking up to the Loud family. Some of the kids then groaned at Luan's jokes, while the others talked quietly, but sharply amongst themselves. There was no doubt that every person in the gym was getting tired of being woken up this morning, and the fact that the sun was beginning to rise meant they all have to get up soon. However, none of them wanted to break up the family's farewell. It'll be just like a quick trip to middle school, and those sick kids here need our help. Lisa's made some medicine that could probably help them, but we promise we'll be back soon, said Luna. The younger Loud kids realized that begging was pointless and became resolved at the fact that the sisters had no choice. Lily continued to cry though. Luna walked up and picked her up. She tried offering her giraffe plush, a bottle of baby milk that they kept in an ice chest, and even tried rocking her in her arms. Nothing worked. That's when Luna had an idea, and she began to sing. Cheer up, baby, don't you cry. No more tears, it's cheer up time. Laugh with me and we will be happy, happy, happy. Lily began to calm down. The Loud family could hear some kids groan again. They must know where that song came from. The siblings didn't care though, because they also joined in Luna in the singing. Soon Lily was asleep, and Luna set her down and kissed her on the forehead. Where did you get that song from? The boy asked. Luna told him it was from Fenton the Feel Better Fox. Suddenly a new voice filled the gym. It was Randy's. Fantastic Mr. Fox, George Clooney, Meryl Streep, Bill Murray, Willem Dafoe, Owen Wilson. Be quiet, Randy, almost everyone in the gym said. Somehow that didn't wake Lily up. All right, said Lincoln, as the gym became quiet again. Please just be careful. Don't worry, Luna reassured. We'll be fine. Goodbye, the younger Loud said. Don't say that, Luna said. Say see you later. Luna smiled as they all hugged each other. Lisa rubbed her eyes as she worked tirelessly, searching for any signs of change in the adult that lied on the table before her. Nothing. She and Brian had tried everything they could think of, such as injecting the adult with blood non-infected kid, giving it some kind of medicine, and performing surgery on its brain, although it wasn't as easy trying to get this thing to fall asleep. Lisa wasn't going to give up. Whenever she felt discouraged, she imagined Lori and Lenny wandering around aimlessly, doomed to roam the earth as mad, bloodthirsty monstrosities if she couldn't find a cure for this disease. She also remembered the sights and sounds of her classmates being slaughtered, or she cowered in the fear in the drawer. Brian had gone to sleep a few hours ago, and there was no way Lisa could take time to sleep. She couldn't even sleep knowing that with each passing minute, another life could be lost to the disease. There was another knock at the door. Lisa, it's us, a voice said. She recognized it to be Luna's. What did she want? Lisa wondered. The door opened and the three oldest sisters walked in, along with Stan and some of the other kids. Lisa hadn't taken time to learn people's names. Hello, Lisa said. What is the nature of your visit? Luna then explained everything. Lisa's heart began to beat unsteadily at the thought of her sisters going out into the dangerous world. She had to imagine every possible thing that could happen to her sisters out there. They could be ripped apart by adults, attacked by a group of unruly teens, fatality wounded by stumbling upon debris. The possibilities were endless. However, there was nothing Lisa wanted more to do than to help the kids in need. If her medicine could just save one kid, it could be enough to ease her coincidence. Okay, you have gotten my contractions. She then went ahead of them, and they were now all stored in a backpack. It was all decided that Eric would be carrying the pack of medical supplies, since he was the biggest and strongest. Please be careful, Lisa said as she handed them the medicine that was now sealed in the backpack. I can't have any more deaths in my mind. We will, Luna said with a smile. Lisa hugged Luna and the other siblings. It had been a while since she had done that. For the last week, she had been pushing herself away from her siblings, away from the world, all for the sake of finding out about the disease. Lisa had realized that she needed those hugs. She spoke so soon as the hugs ended. Now if you'll excuse me, I need to get back to work. Go and save the world, sis, Luna cheered, but don't forget to chillax at least once in a while. Lisa nodded and went back to her studies as her sisters left the room. I'm going to find a way to stop this thing, even if it kills me. The group grabbed their melee weapons from the classroom that had been turned into a storage room for weapons and decided to leave the back entrance of the school. A kid named Doug guarded the door. He had short hair and a big nose. He just looked like Doug Funny from the show Doug, and the other kids made fun of him to no end because of the unfortunate similarities. Doug greeted them and then unlocked the paddock, which was attached to the chains of the door that opened it to it. This is it, Stan said. You girls nervous? Luna and Luan both admitted that they were. Lynn stuck to her lie of not being afraid of anything. Stan only told her that he wished that he had her spunk. The family all set it off into the dawn of the new world. Luna felt bad for not letting her younger siblings see them off at that door. but she just wanted to get away from them as soon as possible. If she stayed with them any longer, she'd probably end up breaking down, ruining her brave act. She would needed to continue to grow strong in front of the siblings, seeing that she was the oldest, since Lori was killed, and same with Lenny. The sun continued to rise over a hill, filling the sky with the orange glow. There weren't any grown-ups in sight, so they might be still asleep. According to Lisa, the adults could sleep. They mostly slept at night, though, which is when the teens usually went on supply runs. Luckily, the batteries weren't affected by the blast, so they could use flashlights whenever they entered the dark building. But batteries were very precious and only tend to be used when you couldn't see in your hand in front of your face, when scavenging or during emergencies. This is why they used candles lights in the school. Luna decided to strike up a conversation with Jay. Jay was a tall, lanky, brown-haired 15-year-old who was on the track team before the blast. "So, what was it like being in middle school?" Luna asked Jay. "It's alright. Brock does a wonderful job of managing things." "Brock Howard?" Luna guessed. If any team could lead a group during the apocalypse, it would be him. "Yeah, he's a great leader. I was with him since the beginning. He railed up the group about 10 of us, including Eric and Franklin." He nodded and then turned towards his two new friends. Eric was a beefy kid, and it was greasy hair who used to be on the wrestling team. A problem that a lot of kids have with him was he'd always smelled like he hadn't showered in a few days, and it seemed to give him a slight advantage during his wrestling matches. Sometimes the teachers would make him go to the gym locker rooms to take a shower. Franklin looked a kind of a geeky with wired frame glasses. As he was very athletic. Unlike whenever they had strenuous activities in the gym, he looked like a machine whenever he did push-up or pull-ups and curl-ups. It seemed to have bothered a lot with the other kids at the star athletes at the school's sports team. He carried a slingshot, and his eyes slowly gazed upon the fields and streets. "He's also very brave," Jay went on. "He could take on several adults without a care in the world. Thank goodness they aren't as good as defending themselves." Luna agreed. He led us to the middle school in hopes of making a permanent shelter. He was quickly able to deduce the only people the 16 and older that were affected by the disease, which meant our parents were all dead. It wasn't easy for any of us to accept, but as to help everyone through, he told us to focus on staying alive and helping others, so we did just that. We fortified the school and then went out to find the other kids. Well, I'd say we saved about 50 or so. Luna thought about how many kids were resided in the elementary school, but it had to be about the same number. We need more people like him. Brave people. People who do anything to help those in need. Like when you charged those adults to save your sister. Luna could feel her stomach tingle. She remembered the fear on Luan's face when the adults chased her relentlessly. Arms extended, face scowling, teeth baring. She never wanted to see that look of any of her siblings' faces again. She'd do anything to prevent it. 12 o'clock, Franklin said quietly, so that the group could hear him. Up ahead, they could see an adult kneel down before a corpse of an animal, digging into it feverishly. Franklin took aim and pulled the sling back, and then released it, which sent a good-sized steel ball flying towards the grown-up. The adult head jerked to the side, and then it lied down still on the road. "Nice shot," Jay complimented. The elementary school group was shocked that the slightest slingshot could be used as an adult. Clearly using this slingshot wasn't a toy. They all walked up to the adult and then looked at the body of the animal. It was a dog. "Do you think any of the dogs were infected by the disease?" Stan asked. "To no one in particular." "I haven't seen any that were yet," Franklin answered. The group then continued down the road. The birds were beginning to chirp in the trees. Stan invaded the birds. They didn't have any fight to stay alive. They could just carry on with their day, singing cheerful tunes, not having a care in the world. The disease, whatever it was, probably was a good thing for the animals and for the earth. Adults could no longer pollute the earth or cause damage to an ecosystem. This was a fresh start, Stan had thought. If kids could survive this, then they could live in a world with a better place. Better than a greedy adult could. No one would be able to profit or cutting off down trees, starting factories, release some plums of smoke, driving cars that release toxic fumes. They could create a more eco-friendly alternatives. Alternatives that some adults had to push off the table, but no one listened to them. However, they lost their fight in survival and died, but that meant the world belonged to the animals again. Eric walked right beside Luan. So I heard you're a comedian. Luan perked up and looked at him. He smelled bad, but she did her best to ignore it. How did you know? She asked. I've seen your YouTube channel. You're quite a funny gal. I especially like your prank videos. Luan blushed. Pranks for noticing. Eric nodded, revealing his yellow rotting teeth. Luan slightly shuddered at this, but managed to keep a smile on her face. I wish we had more people like you in middle school. Brock's a good leader. He does have a good sense of humor, but he's too serious sometimes. I guess that's what happens when you come from a military family. He's all action, always keeping to himself and others in constant motion. No one really has time to joke around, but I'm pretty sure now you've realized that he's the one who sent us out this early to go to the elementary school in hopes of finding some other survivors to come join us. But it turns out Duke seems to have a hold things here. He was too eager to tell us about your sister, the smart one. You really think she's humanity's savior? I remember hearing about that on the news sometimes. I know she's smart, but do you think she's smart enough to fix this? Eric's face was serious by the time they finished talking. I sure hope so, said Luan. I don't want to end up as food for the adults. I'll probably taste funny. They all threw their heads back and laughed, enjoying the slight distraction from the messed up world that is around them. The sun was now completely over the horizon, filling every darkness and the Empen's light. Bloodstains and signs of struggles were more noticeable now. Lynn walked around broadly, carrying her lucky baseball bat. She was itching to use it again against the adult. Maybe it would help her make up the lies for being courageous. She needed a chance to prove herself that she wasn't scared. She was lost in thought when she didn't notice Cooper walking right beside her. Yo, he said. What? Lynn asked, with a hint of annoyance in her voice. I'm busy. Busy with what? Not talking to anyone, was all she could come up with. I'm sorry, he said. I just thought you could use someone to talk to. Well, you thought wrong. Cooper searched desperately for something else to say. The Loud sisters didn't know it, but Cooper had volunteered to join them on their trek to the middle school because he knew Lynn would be going, and he did have a crush on Lynn. He liked her competitive spirit and vast knowledge of sports. He enjoyed playing sports with her before the world went crazy. She'd always beat him at basketball, soccer, and baseball, which always pushed him to do better. At the risk of annoying her further, he commented her with a baseball bat. I see you got a Louisville Slugger. Isn't that the bat you used to play with baseball with? Lynn sighed, and clearly this dude wasn't going to let her up. Yeah, it's my lucky baseball bat. The first one I've ever hit a home run with. Cool, Cooper remarked. I've never seen that good at baseball. I'm more of a basketball player myself, but you've seen to play all kinds of sports. You were really good at all of them. Tell me something I don't know, Lynn sneered, swirling at her bat. Cooper searched again for something that would keep Lynn's attention, and then he figured out a way to get her to notice him. I bet I could beat you at basketball. Lynn looked right up at Cooper and studied him up and down. Then she scoffed. Yeah, right. I'm serious. Okay then, Lynn smiled. When we get back to the elementary school, I'll make you a mano. You're right. It's a date, Cooper said. What? Lynn said, shooting him an accusing glare. Cooper fumbled a word. It's a figure of speech. Before Lynn could say anything, Franklin spoke up again. Stranger danger. There was a group of about 10 adults, heading down straight towards them. Franklin crouched down and aimed his slingshot. All the other kids stood behind him and readied their own weapons. Franklin let his sling fly, and the steel ball hit, knocking down the lead adult down. The others then hurried past towards the down adult, but apparently they were smart enough to step over him. Reloading, he shouted. Follow us, said Stan, moving out a 12-inch dagger from his stealth-fastened hip, and then he turned around to face the Loud siblings. You girls ready to show your stuff? Lynn gripped her baseball tightly, while Luna wielded a hatchet, as she chose it since it reminded her of an axe too. Of course, too bad Joey possessed the only axe in the school. Luan then held a wind-tired ear thumper. She chose it because, well, it looked funny. Charge! Stan yelled. All the kids ran straight for the adults, The grown-ups weren't even at least a bit deterred when continued to advancing towards them. The grotesque features on the adults grew more and more noticeable. Their skin was rotting green color, and their eyes were yellow and had sunk back into their skulls, as the scowls on their faces had created a permanent creases on their foreheads. "Me first," Lynn yelled casually, as she was going up into first bat first, but instead of going first down to put a crazy adult. She then swung the bat as hard as she could towards the infected middle-aged man. The adults may have been bright to step over a body, but they weren't as smart or fast enough to dodge a bat. Lynn could hear a skull crack, and the entire arm slightly vibrated. She studied the adult for less than a second. Her first kill. She wasn't going to forget this moment. Luna was next. She killed infected people before, so she was for sure she could do it again. The teenage girl moved towards her, and she looked to be a few years older than Lori. Luna wished that she had been brave enough to put her older sister down, but now was not the time to dread on that. Now it was time for action. She raised her hatchet and split the girl's skull open. The teenager fell to the ground, with blood and brain matter began to spill from her wound on her head. "Sick," Luna commented. She was for sure meant sick and gross or sick as in cool. "Your turn, Luan," Stan said. The other sister stepped aside. Luan steadied her weapon. "Come on, Luan, you could do it," Lynn encouraged her. Luan shook her head. How could her sisters be casual about killing these people? Sure, they were sick and needed to be put down, but these people used to be people. They used to have lives, hopes, dreams, families, just like all the kids that stood around her did. I can't," she said. "Come on, Luan," Luna said. "Just pretend it's a prank." "A prank?" Luan fought. Pranks were harmless fun. Well, maybe not that harmless when it came to April Fool's Day. Luan was an entertainer, like she was bringing joy to people and making them laugh, not causing them harm. When she took those pranks a bit too far, it was fun. She knew by the next day, everything was going back to normal, and it would all be forgiven. "Hurry, Luan!" Lynn shouted. Luan snapped her out of her inner conflict to notice a fully grown adult hastily lumbering towards her. Luan screamed and took a step back, nearly falling over. She closed her eyes and covered her face. There was a sound of a bat connecting to the head. That was the sound of bedlam filled her ears. Luan slowly opened her eyes to see that her sisters of the other kids were now fighting the adults. Jay and Eric both went to town with their spiked clubs, while Jeremy and Cooper slashed away with their machetes. They had hit the grown-ups beat up in no time. As soon as it was over, Luna and Lynn went over to Luan. Luna had the soft compassion in her eyes, while Lynn had looked slightly annoyed, but sympathetic. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. Luna gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "It's okay. Just give it some time." "Hold on," a voice called out. There was a lone slick teen who was wandering towards them, one that didn't look as strong as the other infected adults. "Jeremy, Cooper, grab that teen and bring it over to Luan," Stan ordered. The other two boys scurried over at the teen, grabbed her by the arms, and began to head her towards the group. "What are you doing?" Lynn asked. "Just put her down?" "No," said Stan. "Your sister needs to learn how to take down an adult." Luan's blood froze. They weren't really going to force her to kill an adult, were they? "She doesn't have to fight if she doesn't want to," Luna said. "Yes, she does," said Stan. "You never know when the time will come she'll need to defend you, or your siblings, or anyone else. We just can't have her be too scared to fight." The three teens around the middle school stood and watched, not saying a thing as Jeremy and Cooper did, that led the teen down, until she was only a few feet from Luan. "Can't we deal with this later?" Lynn asked. "No, we deal with this now." Tears began to fill in Luan's eyes as she stared at the eyes of the sick teen that stood before her. She had long dark hair and seemed to be about 16, just like Lenny. "Take that thumper tire and swing it with it as hard as you can," Stan told Luan. Luan shook her head. "Please don't make me do this," she begged. "You have no choice. It's now or never." Luan looked down at the tire thumper again. She imagined it covered with blood. The thought of bringing it down a poor defenseless teen, she shook to her core. "Do it!" Stan's voice raised. "We've all done it, now it's your turn." "Take it easy," Luna tried to rebuke. "I'm just trying to encourage her," Stan told Luna. He then turned back to Luan. "Come on, Smash her brains in already. Yeah, Jeremy began to urge. You can do it. Cooper looked at Luan with concerned eyes. He wasn't sure if this was the right thing to do. The diseased teenager became more agitated. The voice raised up and started to squirm. Oh shit, she's stronger than she looks, said Jeremy. Hurry it up! Luan began to step backwards again. The teenager was staring intently at her, and as if Luan looked tastier than anyone else around her. Where do you think you're going? Stan exclaimed. He began to make his way towards Luan when Luna and Lynn stepped in front of her. Get out of my way, he demanded. No, Luna retorted. I'm not going to stand and watch you force my sister to do something that she... Fuck, Jeremy cried out as the teen broke free from his and Cooper's grasp. Luan screamed as the teen charged towards her. She closed her eyes and swung the thumper tire as hard as she could. She barely felt the tip barely connected with the teen. It knocked her back ever so slightly, but the teen quickly shook off the hit and lunged at Luan. They both came crashing down to the ground, while Luan was struggling to keep the teen away. The teen continued to bite away at the air, barely missing Luan's face. Help her! Get her off of me! She cried. Luan heard shouting when she felt the weight off of her, as if something began clomping down on flesh. She looked open and saw everyone else standing around the teen. Eric had pulled the body off of Luan, and Luna brought the hatchet down on the teen's head. Luna and Lynn helped Luan up. Are you okay? Luna asked as she steadied her sister's body. Yeah, was all Luan could say. They both hugged her. That's why you need to learn how to fight, Stan said. Luna and Lynn both shot looks of rage at Stan. What? I am right, aren't I? She almost died because she was too scared to do anything. Lynn began to angrily make her way towards Stan. She almost died because of your stupid little test. Cooper then stepped between them, his arms outstretched. Look it over, he said. We'll worry about this later. Right now, the kids in middle school who are in desperate need of medicine right now. Now let's hurry up and get the showed up. Fine, said Stan. Then he turned his gaze to Luan. But there will become a day when you'll need to kill to defend yourself or others. He then began to walk away with Jeremy, while the others and Cooper and Lynn stuck next to each other. Luna still stood next to Luan with an arm wrapped around her shoulder. Luan sniffled as she wiped tears from her eyes. She apologized again. Luna ever slightly tightened her grip on Luan's shoulder and kissed her on the side of her forehead. It's okay. We're almost at the middle school. The first part of our journey will soon be over. Luan nodded as they both walked up to Lynn and continued down the road. The sun shone throughout the gym, prompting all the kids in the elementary school to get up. Meanwhile, Lincoln continued to sit down with his younger sisters. They hadn't moved from their spots since their sisters left earlier. Clyde had joined them. He had asked Lincoln on how he was doing, to which Clyde had thought that was a silly question. He knew that his best friend would be worried sick about his sisters. He tried his best to cheer Lincoln and his sisters up, but their minds were clouded with horrible thoughts of their sisters being attacked by adults. A few minutes later, a 15-year-old walked up to them with eyes fixated on Lana. Hey Lana, ready to go back to work? They all looked up to see a brown-haired boy smiling down at them. He was wearing overalls just like Lana. Oh hey Marco, Lana greeted. I'm not sure if I'm in the mood today. Marco frowned. Oh, is this because it's the morning? Look, your sisters are going to be fine. I heard they went off with some kids from middle school, Jay, Eric, and Franklin. I know them. They're tough fellas. Trust me. Your sisters are in good hands. Really? Lana asked, her voice now filling up with hope. I'd bet my life on it. Lana smiled. Okay, she said, and then looked up at Lincoln. Lincoln then smiled at her. It's okay. Go on ahead. Lana then looked at her twin, and she still looked upset about her sisters. As much as she hated to leave her, she knew that the other kids needed her more. She hugged her twin and then wandered off with Marco, leaving Lincoln with Lucy, Lola, and Lily. A next pretty blonde girl walked up to them. Hi, Lincoln, she said in a soft, soothing voice. They all looked up to see Sarah, a 15-year-old who used to be in fashion before the blast, just like Lenny. Hey, Sarah, she said. Sarah looked down at Lola, smiling. How's your little princess doing today? She said, leaning slightly with her hands resting on her knees. Lola then looked down and didn't say anything. It was rather rare. Lola was quiet even before the adults went mad. She'd always used to go on and on about her pageant career and other hobbies, as well as sharing all kinds of gossip that was happening throughout the town of Royal Woods. Now she was a shell of her former self. The events of the last few weeks had seemed to be affected her more than anyone else. She was for sure did prepare food in the cafeteria, and she did love to sew together pillows and blankets for her siblings to sleep with. But after her older sister's departure this morning, she was too worried about them to focus on anything.